Dear Christine, it's great to be back again with the Eurythmy4you Interview show and have just such a wonderful guest like Christine, who has so amazing things to tell us. Hello, Christine.
Hello, Theodore. Good evening. Thank you very much for inviting me. And if I may, if you allow me, can I say hello to some of the viewers?
Yes, please do.
Yeah. Hello, America. Hello, Baltimore. Wonderful that you're here. Carmel, England, Norway, Finland, Germany. Hello, Heidelberg. And a special hello to Freiburg. I want to say very much welcome to Odessa, where the Russian translator of my book is living, and she and some friends of her are watching us, Theodore. So Odessa, Ukraine, it's wonderful to have you here. And Ricardo Arana in Brazil, anthroposophic veterinarian, who is the coordinator of the anthroposophic veterinarian group over there. And he is currently translating my book into the Portuguese language. And Italy, of course, Sabrina Minestrina, Claudio Elli, Ciao. And then, of course, Steinheim, Markus Steiner. Those are three of the veterinarians who are involved in the team of the training. I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. Oh, Utrecht. And bonjour, France. That's my sister. And through my sister, I met the anthroposophy. So she's very important to me.
That's great, because when you speak, you always show something of yourself. And what you see that Christina is just a human being with a worldwide consciousness. And I mean, when you look back at your biography, you travel the whole world, huh? Everywhere you've been as a stewardess. So we will come back to that later, I think, when we speak about what this kind of consciousness you have already shown to us also means for your work. Christine, you are doing Eurythmy with animals. What does that mean? How does this work? Can you just describe it a little bit?
It is in a way very different than Eurythmy with human beings, and at the same time not so very different. There is, of course, the issue of the eye. I will speak about that a little later, maybe in a few moments. Very obvious is that an animal can't do Eurythmy with you. Like human beings, they copy the movements that you do, and animals can't do that. They absorb it in another way. But apart from having my own practice and working in the Waldorf school, I also worked in an institution for, I think it's in Germany, Heilpädagogik.
Yes.
Yeah, but for adults. And there are many people, young people, older people, who only watch you when you do Eurythmy. They are not able to copy you, or very slowly, but they usually watch, and even sometimes they don't watch. They sit, they look in another way, and still Eurythmy works. So with animals, they're there, and when you're lucky, they look at you, and that's easier with a horse, for example, than with certain other animals who don't ever look you in the eye. But they look at you and you feel a very strong connection. But when they don't look at you, you still do Eurythmy. Sometimes they're eating all the time. They're munching away their dinner. And for a eurythmist, that's not so easy at first, because you're so used to get all the full attention of people. And then you have an animal and it's not even looking at you. But maybe that's not exactly what you mean by your question.
Yeah, I do, because you have just mentioned that with big animals, with horses, it can be easier than with other animals. And just today you showed me a video which I admire a lot, where you are working with horses. Do you mind if I just show it?
Oh, that's wonderful.
Great, then just give me a second and look here. And you can comment, Christine, or we can just watch silently.
Yes. I think watch silently.
Yeah. So, do you want to
The
say a few
movement,
words?
it was a bit not like it really was, because it was a bit, you saw,
Yeah.
it's not as smooth as in the reality.
Yes, it got stuck from time to time. Yes.
Yes. Here you could see that the animal is actually looking at me, because animals, horses are able to see you very well when you are behind them or on the side, because they have this capacity to flee, and they can see very well, much better than when you are in front of them. So this horse was very much aware of me. I always tell students who want to start with animals, it's easier to start with a horse because of this feeling of connection than with maybe even dogs. You would think a dog is easier, or a cat, but that's not true. Or sheep. You want it, especially in the beginning, you want to see if there's any results. And that is what you immediately can observe with a horse, and not so easy with some other animals. So horses are great to start with.
Yeah, I watched this video a few times today, and you really saw also a difference between those horses you did not do Eurythmy with, they just were eating and moving normally, and the other horse really stood, and you felt it was not looking at you outwardly, but it had you in mind very, very consciously, and kept quiet. Huh? It really kept quiet, didn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
But what you also see from this picture, it's not always so comfortable like when you do Eurythmy therapy with a client in your practice, huh?
It was particularly very cold at that moment. It's very different, standing in the rain and with your boots in the mud and your hands. Well, that's a funny thing. When I worked with people, my hands were often very cold and getting colder during the day, during therapy sessions. And the moment I started to work with animals, I had warm hands, even outside. So you could see I'm wearing a really good coat, a really thick one, and I'm really protected against the elements. The weather elements, but my hands are always bare, and they're usually very warm, and that's wonderful. Except when it's really cold or this ice rain, then sometimes my fingers get cold as well.
Couldn't you just wait for better weather?
No, because in Holland it's always windy and cold. And the thing is, it's nice to be outside with the animals, really nice. And the moment it becomes warmer, something else happens. All the flies and the midges arrive immediately. And they are much worse than any cold or rain, also for the animal. So I really like it.
So what I understood from you is when you have the elements around, even if it's cold or wet, it can even be helpful. And if you have other animals or midgets, that's very different. Yeah?
Well,
but the elements
yeah.
somehow are helpers. That's what I hear from you.
Yes, and the midges and the flies, they can really disturb. They have, animals don't get used to those either. They are bothering them the whole time. And sometimes I get midges around me too, and I'm standing there like this, but I can't do that. So I'm very concentrated in a M or a B, and then these midges are around my head, and I just continue. And it feels so pure, and so being in nature, I like it. I really like it. Yeah.
And then we just stay with the video we are just watching. It got stuck from time to time, but the slowliness. Also, when I saw you in real life, when you were just demonstrating the movements, the slowliness was in a way just. You move very slowly when you do these movements, isn't it like this?
Yes. We are all trained to do the movements quite quick, fast, I think. The moment I came in the Waldorf school, I already slowed down a bit, because you want to have the children to be able to follow you. And then later, when I started working in an institution with the people I just described, people with non-congenital brain damage and people with autism and Down syndrome, they want, if you do a poem, they want to do it with you, but they're so slow. So I started to slow down my movements. And before, for example, one sentence, I would take one sound and not 10 sounds in a sentence. So I did it very slow, and then they were able to follow me, and that was wonderful. And then when I started with the animals, well, they just love it when you do it so very, very slow. They get scared when you are moving in a little bit wild way, and your hands up in the air and then down, and the R with the really much force. They don't like that at all. They really relax when you do the movements very, very slow. And when you do it slow, I notice by myself, another quality can enter your movement, which is, yeah, it's more etheric in my opinion, and very warm, and something happens. The slower you do the movement, and I'm always the slowest. Also, when I'm with other people, it's hard, of course, because the tempi is very different from mine. A little bit like Tai Chi. Lots of people always say when you do Eurythmy, it looks a bit like Tai Chi, especially the M. And so one day I thought maybe I should do one lesson, a probe lesson of Tai Chi to get to know it and to experience how it feels. And then during this lesson, I became nauseous, übel, and I noticed that these movements from the Tai Chi, the energy, was sort of clenching with the sounds in the Eurythmy sounds that I have in my body, of course, because it's always with you when you're a eurythmist. It's not only there when you do the movements. When you are a eurythmist, it's part of your being. And I thought, no, I can't do Tai Chi and Eurythmy at the same time. So I left it at that. But what I like about the Tai Chi movements, when you see them, that they go so very slow. And that's what I do too.
Yeah. So there's something in common. And then you say, you carry a system in you which you want to care for, yeah, which still needs something different, yeah, to be able to feel at home in you. Huh? And
yes,
that's what you are developing. Huh? Yeah.
When I had patients in my private practice, they said, for example, when we had the intake, I also do Reiki or anything in another area. And I used to say, all these different movements, and they have a certain qualities, and it's okay, but you can't mix them. So if you do Reiki or Tai Chi, you must not do Eurythmy at the same time. You have to make a choice. So if you are going to do some 10 Eurythmy sessions with me, just leave the Reiki at the side for a moment. And I compared it with all kinds of lovely food you enjoy, but when you put them in the same pan, same pot, when you cook, they're not eatable anymore. You can't mix up everything in life. So, and actually that happens with animals too, because when I come, when I'm with an animal, the owner says, for example, oh, we also do yoga for the horse, or we do, well, and anything, you know, all these possibilities nowadays, what you can do with horses. But even, yeah, I can't say you must not do that. I can't forbid it, but it's not good to mix up everything.
Yeah, and you don't even have to compare good or bad, but the thing is you want to bring something specific, huh?
Yes.
To the animals, yeah?
Yes.
So what made you becoming a eurythmist for animals? What awakened your interest in that? Was it from childhood on that you had these plans?
Yes, I always wanted to do something with animals, and I didn't. And during my Eurythmy years, study at the Academy for Eurythmy in Den Haag, and also later when they had a practice, when I said, so once in a while to colleagues, oh, I would love to do Eurythmy with animals. And then they said, oh, no, you can't do that. Oh, absolutely not, because animals don't have an eye. And then I didn't know what to answer back then. I had no answer. So I thought, oh, okay, then it's not possible. So I forgot about it until the moment that something changed and I wanted to explore if it was possible. And there was,
how
of course,
did you do that?
Yeah, well, I wanted to start, but I didn't know how. And then I discovered a book, Gespräche mit Tieren, Conversations with Animals, written by Wolfgang Weyrauch. You know Wolfgang Weyrauch, who was the director of the Flensburger Hefte?
Yes.
He wrote this book. He interviewed Verena Steil von Holstein. And there are, I think, 8 or 9 conversations with animals, so many books. some of them translated in quite a few languages, but most of them in German. And when I read this book, I thought, it must be possible. So then I sent an email to Wolfgang Weyrauch and I said, can I ask you a question? Do you think it's possible to start doing eurythmy with animals, or do you think it's a crazy idea? And he said, absolutely, do it. And that was the sort of start. And then I wanted to meet, of course, Verena Staal van Holstein, and I called her, and she was very enthusiastic about it, and I met her 3 times. And from that moment on, she helped me to develop some exercises which I could do with animals, with the help of the elemental beings, and with the special help of this very high spiritual being called Etchewit. And she is able to, she has this gift that she can hear the etheric language the elemental beings speak. She always says they don't speak German, but they speak an etheric language, and she is able to, in a split second, to translate that in human language. And that way, she gave me some, to start with, sounds and sound sequences for animals.
What I hear from you, Christine, is in a way that you were longing, or you felt the impulse to do eurythmy with animals, and eurythmists you were asking said that's not possible, don't touch it. But you somehow wanted to still follow this path, but you, in a way I hear from you, you are not a pioneer, but the pioneer, because you didn't meet anybody else who did eurythmy with animals before, or did you?
No.
So it was your impulse, and then you found helpers. That's what I understood. And are these helpers eurythmists who help you now, or helped you then?
No, I only had Verena.
Yeah?
Yes.
And Wolfgang, they weren't eurythmists. What
Wolfgang
can you
is not
describe the kind of work they are doing and how they helped you?
Verena and Wolfgang?
Yes.
Well, in the first place, to believe in it. And Verena already gave many exercises to Wieger Veerman. Wieger Veerman is another Dutch eurythmist in Holland who trains therapeutic eurythmists all over the world, in Holland, with a new extended way of eurythmy. And they are all exercises given by Etchewit. But I wanted to do it with animals, and there were no other helpers. I just had to do it myself too. But I was lucky. I worked I had my private practice, and there was also a group of one group I had, a group of nice people who I saw once a week. And one of the ladies in that group, she came up to me, Annelies, and she said to me, you know, I did a 5-star with my horse. And then I said, oh, I would like to see that. Can I come to your farm? And she said, yes, of course. And I went to her farm, and she gave me the opportunity for many years to come to a farm every week and to try all these exercises with her horses.
Yeah, maybe.
And she's also, yeah.
You showed me a few pictures. Maybe I just can share them. Are they from there, or are they from another place? Huh?
They're from another place.
Look, but you have but it's so beautiful, huh? What you do here, and everybody is watching, huh? Isn't it?
And actually, there are 5 of them, because the horse I'm with, behind that horse. You can see a few other legs.
Yes,
There are 5 of them. Yes, it's wonderful. When you do a eurythmy with one horse, all the others, they sense it too.
Yeah.
They're quarter horses, and they live close by. Here they are as well. They get so relaxed, so zen, that they lie down.
Yeah.
And this is the horse that's on the cover of my book, Kali. Yeah. Oh, it's marvelous. I'm doing a D, as you can see.
Yeah.
This picture, and also the picture that's on the cover of my book, I was not aware that it was taken, so it's really real.
Yeah. And somehow you have the feeling the horse is with you, huh? Isn't
Oh,
it
yes.
like this?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is Walter, a Mastino Napolitano.
Yeah.
And you can see on this, I don't need to tell you. I'm doing a B because he had a terrible problem with feeling abandoned because of his past. Many animals have a traumatic disorders. And here is he's surrendering himself.
Yeah.
And this was a workshop with children. As you can see, they have all have either a goose or a turkey or a chicken on their lap. And the animals are used to having close contact with people, so they have no problem with it. And we here they all hold the chicken or the goose or the turkey with one hand, and they do eurythmy with the other hand.
Yeah.
The institution where I worked with the huispedagogische people, they had a farm too. And one day they got 2 little cows, and the little cows were 10 days old, and soon they became very, very ill. And that afternoon I met the farmer in a hurry. He was in a hurry. He said, sorry, I don't have time to talk because the veterinarian is coming. Because the calves are very ill. They have fever and they had pneumonia and everything. And at that moment, I said to myself, now I'm starting. Tomorrow, I'm going to the calves and I'm going to treat them. Next day was 11 November 2011. And Theodore, I went there and I had no idea what to do. Mm. So I went in the straw where the calves were, and I put my coat on a nail and on a hook, and I kneeled in the straw, and one of them was a bit scared and the other was not so. And then I thought there's only one thing I can do, and that's do the B around them, because B is so gives so much protection. So I did a B.
Can you show it to us what the B is for those who don't know?
I also did B, the M. So, and they really started relaxing, very slow. And of course, even then I realized I have to do this so slow, otherwise they get scared. And then I decided to sing, because I don't have a big repertoire, so I usually sing the same song all the time for animals, and that's the Jesu joy of man's desiring from Bach. So I sang for them, and that was the first time I was with an animal, or in this case, 2 animals. But I still had my private practice, and once a week I went to Annelies at the farm to work with their horses. And very soon I realized I don't want to work with people anymore. I want to only work with animals.
So that was after a short time that you decided, okay, that's a question, huh? You had this experience and you felt that's my path and I dedicate myself to this path. Did I understand this right?
Yes.
And how was your first experience when you was working with the cows? Did you have the feeling, yes, it works? You just said you didn't know what you do, you did something,
yeah.
And how was it?
It was amazing because they respond so much. And it was it's also very special not knowing what to do to find out what you from within what you can do, and how just from an impulse to do certain movements and to see how it works, because you have to just observe what is happening. There was nothing, so I had to try out so many things, sequences, and of course Verena gave me, Etchewit gave me through Verena all these exercises, so I had enough to use.
So how can these animals respond to what you are doing if they haven't got, or when they haven't got an eye? You told me they haven't got an eye.
The eye, the matter of the eye. Well, they don't have an eye, but they do. They do have an eye, but not here on earth. Their eye is in the spiritual world. And I didn't know that. Rudolf Steiner has said a lot about these things, but I didn't know that at the time. I had to find that out. And you can concentrate yourself on this eye by the big animal. We call it the big animal, the big horse, the big cow, the animal in the spiritual world who contains this eye of a certain species. It's special. There's this big horse for all the horses in the world, and the big cow for all the cows in the world. It's very different. Again, people in an institution, they sometimes don't have their eye very close by. It's floating around them, and by Eurythmy exercise, you try to connect it again with them. So, and even so-called normal people have, as you know, not always their eye so present. So it's another way of working. But I didn't know so much about it until I met other important people like Sabrina Menestrina. In 2019, I met Sabrina, and she is the head of the medical section of the division Anthroposophic Veterinary. And everything changed after I met her, because I was not alone anymore, and she learned me a lot.
So they learned you what you felt intuitively before. She somehow made it comprehensible. That's what I understood from you.
Yes, it's very nice when you. Oh, it's more than nice. It's necessary, but it's so wonderful if you meet people who are working on the same level, And she invited me. She was very occupied with finding veterinarians all over the world who have an interest in anthroposophy. And she was at that moment occupied with a big conference in Doornach at the Goetheanum, especially for anthroposophic veterinarians from all over the world. And she invited me to present my book there and to do a speech for them, which was a tremendous honor and also, again, a next step in the whole process. So in March 2020, I was ready with my speech under my arm and my book. Just a few days earlier, my book was ready, the English book, the first one, to go to Doornach, and then Corona arrived. So we had to wait another 18 months, and then last September in Doornach, there was the medical conference, and there were so many different sub-conferences of all the professions, the anthroposophic professions, and one of them was for veterinarians, and there I had the speech, and you were present. That was wonderful that you came all the way to Doornach to hear me speak, and it was wonderful to meet all these veterinarians who are interested in anthroposophy.
And how did they
because
respond?
That's the
So you
future.
spoke about Sabrina, and they introduced, or you introduced, this idea of eurythmy with animals. How do veterinarians, doctors, eurythmists respond to what you are doing?
Well, very positive. They know, of course, about eurythmy, and well, eurythmy for animals, it's such a natural thing for them, actually. So well, I don't know exactly what every one of them thinks, but I felt that it was received very positively. And in my speech, I emphasized that it is so important to get the veterinarians and the therapeutic eurythmists for animals together, to work together. Like Rudolf Steiner said, doctors and eurythmy therapists should work together. They can't. The therapists can't work without the doctors, and it's exactly the same. For us to have a future, the heileurythmisten for tierheileurythmisten, to have a future, we need veterinarians to make a diagnose, because it's very hard to know what is wrong with the animal. Until now, I had to do that myself, to sense it, and it's not easy. And often, what I just said, the disorders are often in a traumatic direction. And then you can do the same exercises that you do with people who have certain traumatic exercises. Some sounds always work. We had I did the curative eurythmy training in England, and one of our teachers was James Dyson, whom you talked to in another interview a few months ago, and the other was Dr. Gudrun Wolf Hoffman, really brilliant anthroposophic doctor and psychiatrist who taught us everything. And she said, you eurythmists have to have the courage to use only one sound. you do too much, she told us. This sequence, that sequence, try one side, just find out which sound this person needs and do that sound. I've never forgotten it. And it's the same for the animals, I think. Often I don't know exactly what is the matter during the first session. And then I do, for example, M. Dr. Hofman said M was the only sound you can't go wrong with. It's such a healing sound. It's such a harmonious sound. And I always feel that my task is to bring harmony back to the animal. So the B is also, and the L, I mean, they're all marvelous sounds, but M always works. They always get so relaxed, and it helps for pain too.
And what I also heard a little bit, that in a way it's the animals who help you, teach us to slow down, and maybe there's looking for don't do too much. Yeah, maybe the animals can become our teachers there. What do you think about that sentence?
Yes.
Yeah, that we are not only giving to the animals, but by doing this kind of work with them, we might learn.
Absolutely.
Something which we can apply in general. That's what I heard from you.
Yes. There's a lot to learn. Theodore, it's so new, and it's just at the beginning.
I mean, one sometimes hears the animals are beings who suffer a lot. Huh? They have even less possibilities to help themselves as human beings. But on the other hand, one hears also that the animals become sort of, they give something, bring something to us human beings. Huh? They are also our supporters in another way. And maybe when you connect Eurythmy, or through you, Eurythmy connects with their sphere, yeah, you in this work can bring something into this field of work in general. Yeah.
When Eurythmy is has such a strong effect on people, how can it only work for people? I mean, Tanya Baumgartner, who you spoke to, who does the Eurythmy with plants, she's an example for that direction. And why would this universal, almost, maybe I shouldn't use the word magical, but Eurythmy is so special and so powerful. How could it not work for animals? It would be quite arrogant from human beings not to want to do it with animals.
What's your vision then?
What my wish is?
Vision.
Vision.
What do you think we should achieve, we should try to achieve, we should go to?
Well, I would like, my dream is to have Eurythmists all over the world to do Eurythmy with animals. And that's why I'm going to do this training with Sabrina and Marcus Steiner and Claudio Elli, to create therapeutic eurythmists for animals, and to create also teachers, other teachers for all the continents in the world, to make it a really serious direction for eurythmy. We have, of course, the pedagogical side and the art side and the medical side, and this should be taken as seriously as all the other directions. That's what I hope for the future.
Can you say more about this training? How far are you and what do you intend?
Yes, it's quite far. I'm allowed to do a pre-announcement here. It will start in September 2023. And we are in the process of getting acknowledgement, recognition from Doornach, because that I find very, very important to have the recognition from Doornach. But we are in that process, and I can't say much about that. But it will start, as I said, in September 2023. It will take 2 years, and it's included are 4 weekends in Germany, in Switzerland, and in Italy on farms. The students should be not just eurythmists, but they have to be therapists already with some experience, because they have to know already about the sounds.
I didn't get that. Do you have to be a eurythmist, a trained eurythmist, or not to do this training?
You have to be already a heileurythmist, a therapist, a eurythmy therapist already.
So you have to have, so the eurythmy training normally takes about 4 years, and then you take 1.5 additional years to become a eurythmy therapist. And that's what you need to do the additional training in eurythmy therapy for animals.
Yes. Well, in reality, it's although there's this new education from Gaspard Z, and it goes a bit faster. It used to be 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
In Den Haag, it was 5 years.
Yeah.
And then you had to work in a Waldorf school for a couple of years before you would start the Heileurythmie-Ausbildung. And then you had to have some experience. So you were already for 10 years a eurythmist before any other direction would appear.
Yeah.
And that's important.
So in a way you say you must have, or you ask that you have experience in working with human beings before you can start to work with animals.
Yes.
Because that's still something higher, if I would name it like
that. And that is so, yeah. And to be able to let everything go and to learn something new. But you have to have the experience.
Well, I mean, that's a deep thing. Huh? If you say you need a 5-year training before you can start working with animals. I mean, if you look into this, then what is an animal? Then you put it higher than the human being.
No, not higher, but it's very complicated. Mm-hmm. Also because, the training for a doctor for human beings is very difficult and very complicated, and you have to have really brains to do that. But to train for a veterinarian, I think it's even more complicated, because every animal has its own system. The human being is one system, but every animal is different. They have to know all that. And then the anthroposophical view is, there's so much to learn. I'm so happy with these brilliant veterinarians in the team, because they have to learn so much. And what we talked about, the eye, it's so complicated. On the other hand, the moment you are with animals, you have to forget about all that. You can't think intellectual all the time. You just have to do it and have to make the movements and be with the animal. That's the complicated thing to know about all these things, and the moment you are with the animal, forget about it, because you have to be in the movement, and that's all what's needed at that moment. And to have a sharp diagnosis from a vet, that's not only helpful, but is absolutely necessary. So this connection.
Yes. The training, the vet has to study, not you.
Sorry? What did you say?
I'm reacting like this because I didn't expect that, but you make my heart beat. Because I just realized that in Eurythmy4you, at least one column on which Eurythmy4you stands is the Eightfold Path. And our main programs are developed out of it. Yeah, the stress programs and the programs for high sensitive human beings. And in the Eightfold Path, when you study Steiner, he stresses very much that it's derived from Buddha. It will still take another 2.5 years to achieve what's intended there. And then it's spoken that it has to do with this discrepancy between the personality and the individuality. And there you learn that the individuality is this part of the human being which does not incarnate. Yeah? In a way, it's now complicated, but and then you work with, I'm here, but to connect that you might be even something higher, connected with everything. And I just got the feeling that the animals, they live in this sphere and can maybe show us a little bit the path to ourselves in this sphere. And when you do Eurythmy so slowly and you try to open up through your slowliness, the etheric, which is in a sort of a mirror for the I, ego for I forces, then it seems that's why I said you put them higher in a way, because they might become our leaders to our own sphere when we work eurythmically on this level of eurythmy with them. That's just why I like this idea. You must first have worked in depth with human beings before they're approaching this level or walk this path. Do you a little bit understand what I mean?
Yes.
Does it make sense or not?
Yes, absolutely. The word putting them higher is not, I don't mean to put them higher, you know that I don't mean that, but they are very pure and they don't have an agenda. They mirror people, and they have many animals have a very hard existence because of human beings. what the human beings, what they are treated for and how they are treated by human beings. These big factories with animals, if you think about it, it's very depressing. And here there is a possibility to do something. Even if you are not present, you can, from a distance, do a hallelujah or another beautiful Eurythmy exercise to try to help them from a distance. By the way, the training is also open for veterinarians. So it's for therapists and veterinarians, and that way we hope to connect them.
Yeah. So it's about also creating a connection between, the human beings deal such a lot with their centralized I, their personality, the human being, and the animals somehow teach us, lead us towards this I in the spiritual world, which we hopefully also have. Yeah. And what I like, Eurythmy, that's the nice thing. In Eurythmy, you're allowed to turn everything the other way around. And normally, if you say, lift your hands inwardly, it goes down. You'd always work with countercurrents. And so and often you hear the human being is an animal, and somehow you say, yeah. But if you turn it the other way around, then you could say the animal is a human being. And that's something I find a very nice thought, because it can widen it lets me connect with animals differently. That's at least how I feel it. And for this, I really like what you showed us today. And I mean, you described also in your book, you describe your work, and you also describe how the animals react, and where you also get the inner security from that this work meets what it is intended for. It's a conversation. And then you speak about this. We can show you on it to finish with, once again, if you don't mind, once again on this picture where you work with the children. Yeah? And we were speaking about horses and dogs, but they have goose and chicken on their laps. And then you describe, you work with them, they have them on their laps, with one other hand they do Eurythmy. And at the end you describe the people who entered the room, they experience a very special mood. Yeah.
Yes, because this was part of a whole workshop for children the whole afternoon. We started with this, and then we went with the horses and the goats and other animals they have there. At the end of the day, many of the horses decided to lie down, and the silence, the children were all very also impressed by what they had done, and the silence and the whole atmosphere was so special. And then a few of the fathers of the children, they entered the building to pick up the children, and they had no idea what they were looking at. They said later it was as if we entered the Ark of Noah. And all the atmosphere was as if time was standing still. And that's only because of the Eurythmy we did.
So you could say Eurythmy, or the animals, and then especially the Eurythmy with animals, can create or lead us into a sacred space. It can create relief for the animals. That's for the animals. And for us, it can lead us into a sacred space and experience.
For me, at least, when I work with animals, I'm never tired afterwards. When I worked with people, it was different because, well, I don't have to explain. Everybody will understand that. And it's a very strange thing that your hands stay warm and that you have a lot of energy after a day's work, instead of being cold and really tired.
And that's something you say that's worthwhile to put even research into it, to learn from it, to discover what is waiting for us.
It's all discovery and researching, and there's a lot to do.
Yeah.
And that's also there it is.
That's why you wrote this book, and it's also thank you to Sabrina. So I also say hello and thank you to Sabrina. Through you also this interview now becomes possible, and becomes possible to share all these things. And the book has been is on market in English, is on market in German, is on market in Italian language, is on market in the Russian language. And you have said that it's now translated into Portuguese, I understood?
Well, he is now translating it in Portuguese. So he's doing it now. And I would like to have it in Spanish as well, and maybe some other languages. But it would be nice if people who want to have it in a certain language would let me know their wish.
Yeah. And when we were just preparing this meeting, this discussion today, you also said it would be very nice also, and maybe even meaningful, if it could be translated into Chinese and also Japanese, because you have the feeling that the realm and a sphere where it really could be understood what you are talking about. And then we decided somehow, dear friends, if you enjoy or if you find it worthwhile what we've spoken about, and if you want to donate, and support Christine's work, then feel free to donate to this bank account. You're very welcome. And here you have where you can donate, especially now, and support this translation into Chinese and Japanese as an outcome of this workshop. And if you want to order the book and for further information on the training, you have the email here. We will also put it under the video. Those of you who have registered, we will send the link to. And I would like to quickly show you that there will be more interviews coming on Eurythmy4you. Many of what we offer is translated into many of these things into many languages. The full content is available in English and in German. On our welcome page, you have this happy heart, just register, and every day you get your exercise sent at home. It's a 1-minute exercise, and I'm sure you will enjoy it. In the interview show, you have seen, and Andrew Linnell, a fantastic man from America, will tell us about the future of the human body. And we've just mentioned the Eightfold Path, which also leads into the future. And then you have indications of Steiner. We won't have the body forever, and what's going on in technology at the moment. And Andrews really dived deep into these questions. If you are able to understand German, we have Klaus speaking about the teeth. He's a doctor, a dentist, from the point of view of spiritual science, and he will speak about caries and parodontose. Yeah? And just feel free to look around our House of Health, our self-development courses, and so on. And if you want to support our work, under info donations, you will find where you can support us. But the interview today was mainly to support Christina's work. Thank you so much, Christina, for having been with us to show us the depth of your work, and also, yeah, the opportunities which you are preparing that more and more people can learn it. Thank you so much. It's great to be with you, to listen to you, to exchange with you. And we have said we would like to repeat this interview in the autumn, or maybe a little bit later, we will see, in German. And then also say a little bit more words about the training, which will be, yeah, we've made some steps forward until then. Christine,
Thank you very
final
much.
words. Your final words.
Thank you. Thank you, Theodore, for having me. It was wonderful to be able to speak about it, although it's so it's unknown territory, and every time I say something about it, it feels, is it right how I am expressing it? But it's time to give it to the world and to ask all the talented Eurythmy therapists to think about this opportunity to do something for the animal kingdom on Earth.
And those of you who liked what Christine shared with us, don't hesitate to spread the word, make people know about this possibility Eurythmy offers also for animals, and vice versa then for us human beings too. Thank you very much. Have a great time. See you again. Bye bye. Thank you, Christina.